Hello and welcome. It's me, Andrew Ace. You can find me online at UYS999, and I'm back with a new graphic novel review. It's been a little while. November was a month of reading lots of books and catching up on other things. I really missed sharing, what great reads were worth other people checking out, and maybe which ones, you shouldn't be reading to save some money. First off, though, we've got another Lennon Yu book that wasn't part of my collection until recently, or rather, it was, and I gave it as a gift. It was still all shrink wrapped. I hadn't read it. I had, though, read the issues for, and the book I'm talking about is Superior. Superior by Mark Millar and Lennon Yu. So I did a best of Lennon Yu review, and this wasn't in it, maybe in part because of time. My reviews tend to go a little long, and in part because I didn't have it on my graphic novel shelf. I realized that looking through my books, and set out, and I managed to pick it up at a local used bookstore. And the story behind Superior, or in Superior, is that this is Mark Millar's take on Superman / Captain Shazam. I think you could sort of say the Uberman, and his version of that character. So, it's not the Superman that you're going to recognize, or maybe Shazam you're going to recognize, but, he's got the classic sort of strongman superhero costume. And I don't want to give away too much of the story, but what's great is that this, like Shazam, revolves around a young boy gaining the powers of a superhero and what he chooses to do with them. And I think, that really sums up the book, perfectly. So, Superior by Mark Millar, Lennon Yu, definitely worth checking out. And that's Millar World is who publishes it, sort of through Icon, with Icon sort of somewhere close to Marvel subsidiaries. But you'll find that in your local comic book shop, no problem. Next up, Spider-Man 2099, Volume 3. So I found Volume 1 and 2 a little while ago. I think I already reviewed it, but if not, Spider-Man 2099, childhood favorite. I picked up issue 1 when it first came out on the stands, and rereading Volume 1 and Volume 2 certainly was a trip down childhood memory lane. This volume was a bit beyond where I guess I had stopped with this particular title. I was still reading comic books when this came out, but I clearly hadn't been keeping up with this, because this volume, The Fall of the Hammer, still written by Peter David, longtime Spider-Man 2099 writer. I'm not sure if anyone else has really written the character with, under that as the title. This, as I was saying, crosses over, though, with some of the other 2099 titles that came out. That was X-Men, Doom, Ravage. He was a particular favorite of mine. And it revolves around this whole thread that's been through all the series, that at least I remember, but was that the Thorites and the return of Asgard, of Thor, of sort of the gods of the superheroes. And that's what happens in this volume, and the fallout from that. It also continues a bit beyond The Fall of the Hammer, giving you a few more of just, regular Spider-Man 2099 stories, along with what's actually inserted in the extra pages, sort of keep the page count proper from, transferring from comic book into graphic novel format. They have a number of reprints of the Marvel trading cards from the 90s. So that certainly, again, was another, look back, trip down memory lane. Definitely worth checking out if you were a reader of the series in the 90s. If you're a newer fan, you've been reading some of the new Spider-Man 2099, I would definitely say start with Volume 1 and 2, maybe go to 3. This was more nostalgia than excellence. But then again, I wasn't a fan of X-Men 2099, less so maybe of Doom. Definitely I was of Ravage. So in a way, this was, a little bit outside of what I had loved as a child anyway. Still worth checking out for fans of the 90s. And that's obviously Marvel Comics, Spider-Man 2099. So, next up, Dungeons & Dragons. This is by IDW. It's a bit of an older book. It is written by John Rogers and illustrated by Andrea DeVito, Italian gentleman, illustrator. I'm a big D&D fan. I've been playing D&D since I was 10, and while I might have a few nitpicks with this book, what I would say made it work for me was that it really did feel like a D&D adventure. The characters, whether, it's a little bit of a, I don't want to say stereotype or trope, dwarves and elves not liking each other, but the dialogue between the characters, I felt I could really, it felt like there were players who were sitting around a table, and that aspect being captured made this a phenomenal read for me. It came out during D&D 4th edition, so there's some phenomenal stuff at the back where they give you the adventures, if you can play, that come from the stories. Each issue, if I remember correctly, because I was reading the single issues when this came out, at the back had notes for the adventure, so you could fight monsters and go through, the dungeon crawl and whatnot. Based on the comic book, if you wanted to be sort of reliving the comic book story. And why I'm like, that's 4th edition. Frankly, if you've been playing D&D any length of time, you should be able to transfer that to 5th or back to 3.5 or whatever is your ideal, D&D rule set, because the story transcends that, and this is a great read. Whether you're even really a fan of D&D and you just want some fun fantasy, swashbuckling adventure, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of magic, all found here. So it's Dungeons & Dragons Volume 1, Shadow Plague, by IDW. It's a few years old, beautiful hardcover, stunning paper. It really a must-have for any D&D geek like me. So check that out. Last book is, I don't want to say an indie, maybe a small press is a better way of putting it. It's a Canadian creator, a cartoonist. He's both the writer and the artist, based in Ottawa. The gentleman's name, and I apologize for having to look this up, is Von Allen. That's his last name, at least. I actually had a chance of chatting with this gentleman a few years back when the book came out. It has taken me this long to give it a proper read-through. I read it through really quickly at the time. I was working at a comic book store, reading 70 issues a week. I was pretty busy, and when a new comic book came out, someone was showing me something, it was a very kind of like, okay, we'll take it or we won't take it. And we did. We stocked it at the store. I put one on my shelf, and I finally got around to reading it last month. It is a really heartwarming, fun tale, great for young female readers. I would say if you're looking for somebody, give them, they're sort of 13 or 14, maybe a little bit younger, 11 or 12, but in that range certainly, and they would love this. It's got elements of Narnia. The girls go on this great fantastical quest. At the same time, it isn't, over the top, full of horror, full of action. No, that's not the right way. Full of violence that wouldn't be appropriate. This is the kind of book that, when I think back to when I was 13 and probably what my parents were giving me to read, would be the kind of thing they would have tried putting in my hands, because it's smart, it's well done. Even as a guy, you're not, limited because, there are only female characters. I don't think that influenced me in any way. Again, I thought the dialogue was great. I thought I could relate to the emotions the characters were feeling. And, that sense of adventure of being 12 or 13, whether I was going off into Sherwood Park and wandering off and thinking I was going on some great fantastical quest a la D&D, or in this case, if you actually are, you can relate to that sense of adventure, sense of wanting adventure. So check this out. This might be a little harder to find in most comic book stores because it wasn't a big publisher that put it out. I believe the gentleman did it himself. But I'm just going to hold up the ISBN. And it's Stargazer, Volume 1. I'm trying to see, does he have a website that he mentions? Yeah, here we go. www.vonallen.com. So that's VONALLAN. And I don't normally try and push checking out someone's site so much, but this is a book that really, when I say could use, but requires local fan support to help that writer, then maybe get it noticed by Image or IDW, or to go on and do other work with them. He's certainly sunk his own money into publishing this, so you're really making a difference as opposed to buying, and no offense, another copy of Spider-Man 2099. I mean, you might love it. I love Peter David, but this money is going directly to the creators' pockets, and that's, you know, something I want to always support. So, Stargazers, Canadian creator. Well, guys, that's me for the week. My name is Andrew Ace. You spell that U-Y-S, and you can find me online at UYS999. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Goodreads. I don't think I probably can keep track of all the different social media you can find me on and say hello. And I always love comments. I'm going to, once this is done, go respond to a few. So just a quick shout out to the people who have been chatting. Guys, I love hearing what you're reading, and it has really influenced actually some of my purchasing and my books. And hopefully you'll see that over the next couple of weeks as some new reads are shared with you. All right, catch you all later. Take care.